What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode, Deconstructing Topics podcast, where we deconstruct topics about life, politics, philosophy, and that's all in between. My family, you out there that are listening, thank you once again for the support. I'm a little bit stuffy today, but for some reason, it's interesting how life is that there's so much that's going on in my life, to be honest with you. And, ever since I started with the podcast, there's a lot of connection. There's a lot of people that I've connected to and connected with. We all definitely have to get together and kind of like, how can I say, when something good is about to happen, you got to do it collectively. So each people are just doing their individual thing. And, one of the things that I doing here with my podcast, just speaking out on about everything. And for some reason, this is a topic that I needed to discuss. And I'll be honest with you, for the most part, this podcast today is 99% unscripted. So you're probably going to be like, yo, what you mean 99% unscripted? See, there's a lot of different podcasts that I want to do, different episodes on different topics. And I like to do a lot of, I got the politics, the philosophy, and all that's in between. Today I say I got to do a little philosophy. And today we're going to discuss what does freedom means to you? Do we really have freedom? And then that's a topic that 1% of being scripted was that's one topic that's always been on my mind. I've discussed this with people before, depending on how can I say to you, depending on what sector, what angle, what avenue you come in, it's a lot of times that we do tend to question freedom. And I decided, you know what, this is why I love that app Podbean, where I use the platform that I do my podcast. I enjoy it because I could do it on the fly any given time, just on the phone in itself. And whatever magic I could do with my computer, I could do, but it's optional. To be honest with you, just the fact that I could just plug in a little mic on my iPhone and work that little magic. So this is gonna be podcast, and I said this before. That's gonna be on the fly and a bit unscripted, and this is definitely unscripted. But I definitely want to touch this because I'm like, yo, that question in itself about freedom. What is freedom? What does freedom mean to you? Are we actually free? It goes deeper. And it's going to have different meanings for different people. I did ask that question to one person recently. Their answer would be like, well, we do have freedom in a ways, but it goes deeper than that. And I'm like, you see, it's that thing like, have you ever heard a conversation where people say, well, I'm just going to say this and that, but, well, defeats the whole purpose of what you was kind of stating on the beginning. And it's the same thing kind of like freedom. Well, we do have freedom, but, well, we're going to examine a couple of things. And I said to myself, because I'm here doing this on the fly, I said, you know what, let me just sit down, relax. Again, I sound a little bit stuffy. I guess my allergies is going in. But I said to myself, yo, ain't nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to be doing these podcasts like there's no tomorrow. And I appreciate the support. People out there that are listening. I'm going to say people, but family. Every time that you take time. And I see that my podcast being listened to in states, Massachusetts, New York, Florida, Georgia, Texas, California. Hey, we need that, when I look at that map, because I can see where the listeners, the state, I see people in Germany, Netherlands, Korea. I want my map to look like if this was the 2024 presidential elections here in the United States, I want it to be my color. I don't know what color I'm going to say. I just want every map to be like, boom. Not the red and the blue from the political parties. As a matter of fact, I want it to be green. Green party. Let's go. But one of the things I said to myself, and I'm looking at in front of my laptop, and I decided, you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun. because let's go with the definition of what freedom in the Oxford Dictionary. And, even if you put the word freedom, it's gonna take you to these different places, spiritual. We're gonna ask that question spiritually. Do we have spiritual freedom? Physically, work, freedom of speech, so on, right? If I forget something, there's always gonna be a part two. Woo, let's go. One of the things I'm looking at here, when it comes to freedom, the power or the right to act, speak, think as one once without hindrance or restraint. Meaning that you could speak, that's where you can hear the word freedom of speech. I know in the Constitution, they give you the authority of freedom of speech. And I always say, do we have freedom of speech? Well, against the government, yes. Yes. That's what it's protecting from. Meaning that I could say something bad about, the current president, previous president. I could say anything about any other president. I'm not going to be arrested. Well, knock on wood, because you just sometimes never know. It only takes one person. Out of 10 people that might say, hey, ex-president, it's not good, corrupted, one could just be raided. And then that's how they found a way to kind of like tell you, hey, listen, don't mess with us. But that's where the freedom of speech comes in. We're going to go out there, let's say for people like me that do podcasts, people that do YouTube, people that do streams. If you bad mouth somebody, again, you're going to have that freedom to say so. Unfortunately, if you're in a platform, if you're in a place that you're tied into, let's say, a corporation. You see, right now I'm doing this through Podbean. Let's say I'm a YouTuber, for giving an example, and I say something, I might be struck down. So, in reality, what freedom do we have to say something? I remember for those out there, in regards to COVID, who questioned the vaccine. Now, it's okay. Now, it seems that it's okay to question it, but if a couple of years, if you do question it, and even to now, it seems that platforms like the Facebook, the YouTubes, the Googles, whatever it is, they either strike you down, meaning that they will suspend your account for like a week or so for spreading misinformation. Or let's just say if you're a famous YouTuber, then another YouTuber might say, look, this person is spreading misinformation. So that freedom of actually speech or what you believe in and so on, I'll put an asterisk to that. And it was not too long ago that we had a discussion with my brothers in arms. And we had this interesting conversation where, let's say if you're working for this corporation, well-known corporation, whatever the case might be, let's say you one of those work Mondays to Friday kind of type of deal. You say, hey, listen, I work hard, let me just go to a little nice bar, weekend, treat my friends, and then there's a little scuffle happen. And for some apparent reason, I don't know what you did, you spat at somebody, it looks like, something happened, but then in the news, it comes out, let's say, if somebody recorded this scuffle, this little fight, the news will run it, X-person in this environment spit out a woman, right? A man spit out a woman. And then you see your bosses, they see this over the weekend and they'll grab your phone. Hey, listen, John, unfortunately, your service no longer needed. And one might say, well, what does that have to do with my job? You got to keep in mind. When you're working for a company, especially a company that has a reputation, even when you're working for a company, again, when I say working for a company, it could be, private company. If something happens when you are employed, there's codes and ethics. And you have to keep in mind, even though there's certain things that you did off hours, not work related, you still represent the company some way or somehow. So if they look at the let's just say the headlines, then you're going to be terminated. Do they have the right to do so? Absolutely. In most cases, in the United States, You're an at-will employee. But can they say, hey, listen, your values do not represent us as a company? Absolutely. So again, wait to that point in terms of that, there's freedom? Not really much. You could just wake up, put that badge, go to your job every day, Mondays to Friday, whatever it is, and you could say, I represent this company, I love what I do, I love where I work at, but just, I've been working at that company for 20 years, I bust my butt, I'm always there, whatever the case might be, but that one incident, you're done. Again, you represent the company, regardless of where you go. If something to that effect happens, that you get into the scuffle and they find out where you work at, the company gonna say, well, unfortunately. And then the other thing they will be like, oh, we don't know if you have a bad attitude. We don't know if you're one of those people that gets, we could go on and on. But there's that freedom that I said. Not much there. Absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government. Again, I went back to the government issue. Throughout the world, we have been in places, so there's a lot of people that have been living in places where, if you say something bad about the government, you're going to get chopped up, or you'll be put in prison, or a lot of things. Here in the United States, you might not be put in prison again, but depending on what you said, the media, which is a lot of times the mainstream media, is the mouthpiece of the government. And it's interesting how supposedly we in a time where we have a Democratic Party who, for the most part, always preach freedom, for the most part. But I always say that's polyoptics. But now, if you say anything different, they want to cancel you. They force companies to not. Let's say I've heard stories of you not unable to open a bank account, and and I said to myself, well, then again, where's that freedom in terms of that situation? The state of being physically unrestricted and able to move easily. Now, one might say that you live in the United States and you have the freedom to do anything that you want, and in the most part, I agree. But again, you have the freedom to think, to speak. You have the freedom to think. It's who you speak to about those things that you are, your thoughts. You have to be careful of who you speak to. Now, in my early days of this question in regards to freedom, because I was raised a Christian, we have the thing of called free will with a little asterisk. Some people might say, well, doesn't the scripture kind of contradicts that it gives you free will, but yet if you do something that's sinful? Don't see the contradiction there. The point is that every action that we make has some type of consequence. And that's on one of my previous podcasts where I said that sometimes we become prisoners of our own beliefs. Yes, can we move easily? Can we do certain things in this country? Absolutely. But these conversations, it was a little bit of Christianity and a little bit of people. When I was a teenager, I was surrounded by, there were people from the Nation of Islam, young kids, who in the mid-90s, early 90s was listening to Louis Farrakhan. So the whole different podcast there in itself. And, there was the black youth and even Spanish people, mostly Puerto Ricans that were born here. It's like it seems that they gravitated to this individual. And once again, conversation of freedom came in. People who don't believe in God, I can't say atheists, but they believe in a higher power. Again, the conversation. Do we have total freedom? Are we free? And sometimes I say to myself, remember, in this country, they are, how can I say to you? They allow us to be free, quote unquote, but they turn us into consumers and consumptions. So we become enslaved to something. Somewhere down the line, we all enslaved to something, whether it's something with our bad habits, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, gambling. You might see this person if you go to a casino, gambling, yeah, you know. And once they done having that fun, wasting their money, and again, you have the freedom to do whatever with your money, but sometimes you do tend to question people. Is that you become enslaved to something. So sometimes you could say to those people that, hey, I have the free, I got the money to do whatever the case I want. By all means. What exactly are you doing specifically? If you're a consumption or if you're consuming products, certain products that, again, alcohol, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's, you go a lot of shopping or whatever the case might be. The balance would be, is there something that's paying the price for that freedom that you're having? And that's why I always said that in this country, United States, the freedom that they have given us, kind of reminds me a little, when you put the chickens, and you let them roam for free. You let them roam, you let them do whatever the case might be. But if you're raising chickens, you use a certain type of corn from a company. Unless you raise your own corn. But you're already throwing the food. Already deciding that chicken must eat corn, right? Now, corn is very cheap. Can there's other things that chicken eat? Perhaps. But corn seems to be that cheap thing, They seem to be happy when they eat corn. But remember, the interesting aspect of the chickens, roaming free. But yet you raising the chicken, you the owner of these chickens, throwing the corn, throwing the food, telling them when to go to sleep or whatever, opening that little coop, the little cage thing. Somewhere down the line, those chickens got to go into a cage. Well, as a matter of fact, they are probably already in a cage. Even though they're roaming for free. But this is what this country is. They let people roam for free, but they let people roam for free for the fact that they're going to fall into something where they become prisoners. One of the things that I came across as well, that people give meaning to different type of freedom. Freedom from the constraints of society. Second is freedom to, a freedom to do what we want to do. Thirdly, there is freedom to be. A freedom not just to do what we want, but a freedom to be who we're meant to be. And that's one of the interesting things right there too. Because I always say we live in an upside down world. Let's say these days, we have people in the trans community and so on and so forth with the different pronouns and the different identification, and there's always even the other day I was listening to a person from the LGBT community who was saying, well, let's just say I'm a gay man, right? You're telling somebody from the, let's say, trans community or the QIA plus community that I'm a gay man. If you're telling me that there's no such thing as a man, right? It's a construct or whatever, but yet you want me to accept who you are, whatever you want me to call you, then what kind of freedom do we actually have if we're fighting amongst each other? And the freedom to do what we want to do, absolutely, for the most part. For the most part. We do have that freedom to do anything that we want, but again, we go back to that. We restrain ourselves based on what our belief is. And somewhere down the line, we have to master what is freedom. What is freedom to you? Like, guys, I'm doing this podcast. There's so much that's going on in my life. It's like, when I started doing the podcast, it's like I took a big step forward. But it seems that there's certain things in the past that just kind of like caught up to me, and I, from taking one big step forward, I took 2 steps back. That's why I made that podcast on what does the universe mean to you. When the universe put certain things in your life that at one point you think that was good, and then I don't know where, disappeared. A prison to your own freedom. Somebody's gonna pay the price for your freedom. Something's gonna happen. And this is why I, and for those that are listening, need to somewhere sit down and master your freedom. Master who you could become with. What is actually restraining you and keeping you away from what you become to do? And there's a lot of things that could happen. You're surrounded by more negative than positive. That person that you with, when it comes to a relationship, freedom. You know, we're not talking about, when you're in a relationship, let's say marriage or something to that effect, been long time boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that you've been in this one relationship, giving and devoting your time to be with that person. See, when I say freedom, I don't mean that, oh, let's just have an open relationship or nothing like that. No, it's just the freedom to discuss and have that conversation. And sometimes if you in the up and up, and there's people that are around you that is not in the up and up, and you care for much, you care for those people, you gotta ask, you gotta question, you gotta help people motivate each other, because as we fight for that master or freedom and we fight for that total freedom, there's gonna be people that's gonna pull you back. They're gonna be on the same page that you started, asking that same question. Do we actually have freedom? Do we? In certain aspects, it seems that we do. But we can't preach that freedom to other countries to say, hey, listen, this while we're going to fight your dictator, whatever it is, we're going to do a coup, because someone's going to pay the price. They might say, well, we want to bring democracies to other countries. Oh, I'm just saying to myself that sometimes when we have these boundaries that we have to kind of understand that one of the things, and I agree, is that freedom to be who we were meant to be. When you start to think that you could be something, that you could be better. See, ask yourself that. And a lot of people are going to kind of agree to say, yeah, I'll be feeling like that. I'll be feeling like I was meant to be something. I think I could do better. Well, what's keeping you from not doing better? So that means that you're not really free. There's something that you're doing that's keeping you away from having that actual freedom. Even just the fact that you're thinking about it, just have that thought. You're just thinking about it. There's got to be something that's holding you. So that means that you're not free. You're handcuffed and you're in shackles. And both had 2 different keys, but you only one key. Think about it. Which one you would rather kind of unshackle yourself? Handcuffs or shackles? You take your handcuff away, you have the freedom to do a little bit more with your hands, but you're going to be limited with your feet. You unshackle yourself with shackles. You have the freedom to move a little bit better, but you're limited to use your hands. Total freedom is what sometimes we need. How can we get there to total freedom? What does that mean, total freedom? I see some the actor Russell Brand. He has a YouTube channel. For the most part, I enjoyed it. And he was very spiritual, and he speaks about this freedom. And with all due respect, there's a lot of people like Russell Brand. who just happen to have the means. Example, there was the football player from the Jets, Aaron Rodgers. And there's people that they go to, I believe it's Peru, and they use this mushroom, this tea, ayahuasca. It's supposed to elevate them to somewhere deep. But I said to myself, for the most part, those people that went there, they have the means, meaning that they have a certain amount of money, more than I do, more than most people that are listening to. They have millions of dollars. So they have that financial freedom. But you see how interesting is that to be able to find something that's going to make you feel elevated to freedom, you have to have something to get there. It's interesting. So somewhere, I want people to understand that sometimes we don't have to put like this little rock, magnet, whatever, on around your neck, or these beads around your wrist, or tattooed to remind you of something spiritual that's gonna make you feel free. You don't need all that, because some of those things they're pushing you to do what Russell Brand does, go somewhere with his money, go to this temple. You have to do something. I said to myself, wait a minute. And by all means, hey, you got the means, by all means. All I'm saying to you is that we, as to what our limitations is, have to learn what we are freedom from. And, again, I encourage people that, hey, by all means, do whatever you got to do and enjoy life. But don't constrain yourself to think that you need to do these things in order to feel. Hey, by all means, it's great because, sometimes Mother Nature would just place something somewhere that we feel it. And I went to the Niagara Falls and feeling that nice little mist, that felt good. Ooh. So there's things that Mother Nature brings in itself. So yeah, those people, by all means, I encourage people, enjoy nature. If that's what for you is freedom is. So it's a definitely interesting podcast in itself. I mean, I think I could do this forever, another part 2. But I just needed to bring it out there. I just want people to ask that question. What is freedom? Do you have freedom? And if you don't have freedom, what is it that you're going to do? What can we do collectively? What can we do individually to be able to enjoy life to its fullest? And you can become who you can be. Because we have a war out there that's going on between those who think free and independent, like myself, like yourself, and those are people who are learning to master the independence of freedom. Woo! Well, my folks, much love. I appreciate you. As always, deconstructing topics, the hottest topic that's going on. And I'm out. Peace. I'm out.